Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sake Revolution. This is America's first sake podcast. I'm one of your hosts, John Puma from the Sake Notes, also the admin over the internet sake Discord, that guy over at Reddit's r/sake, and the guy on the show who is not the sake samurai.
And I'm your host, Timothy Sullivan. I am a sake samurai and also a sake educator. I'm also the founder of the Urban Sake website. And every week, John and I will be here tasting and chatting about all things sake, and doing our best to make it fun and easy to understand. Yes.
So we're back, Tim. We're back this week with another brand profile. I have been loving these. These are a lot of fun.
Very fun.
Yeah.
To dig a little deeper into one brand, and we have a doozy. We have a doozy this week.
Yeah. So the name of this brand always makes me laugh a little bit.
Why does it make you laugh?
All right. So one time we were in one of our favorite izakayas in Shimbashi called a Magakuro Ishii. And Michelle was doing her crazy style thing, which for people who are new to the show, my wife, when we go to Japan, she will often ask in bars or izakayas if they have any sake that is crazy style. And that may sound a little strange, but somehow this always gets a sake that fits a particular description of just something really weird and funky and different. Oh, wait, that's not very particular, is it? But it always gets her something that's very weird or funky or different. This time, though, Ishii-san was actually helping some other customers, and one of the chefs actually came over, and she asked him that. And he went over to the refrigerator, and he kind of rubbed his chin for a few moments, and he came back, and he's like, well, we don't have anything crazy, but this sake is called Kuheiji. So this is Kuheiji style.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah,
Yes. So this brand is a mouthful. Kamoshibito Kuheiji. Kamoshibito Kuheiji. That's the brand name. And the brewery is called Banjo Jozo.
Banjo Jozo. That's a catchy name. I kind of like that. I wasn't thinking banjo, but yeah, I guess they can do that.
It's spelled banjo, but it's banjo. Banjo Jozo, and this is from Aichi Prefecture, and the brewery's about a 15-minute drive from Nagoya.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So that's on the main island of Japan, towards the Pacific Ocean, west of Tokyo.
Nice. I feel like we don't get that much sake from Aichi Prefecture over here.
Yeah, not a lot. Now, Kuheiji is a well-known brand in Japan, and I've heard this described as a cult sake before.
Yeah. I've heard the same. It is another one of those very, popular boutique brand. You see it on social media a lot. It's very much, it's a brand that has fans, and they get very excited.
They sure do, and we've had some brand profiles in the past on the show, where the younger generation of brewer takes over, a little bit inspired by the world of wine, and they create a unique style of sake. And I think that is the story here as well, but kind of turned up to 11. Like this, the president of this brewery, his name is Kuheiji Kuno. He's the 15th generation Kuramoto, or 15th generation brewery president. And
so wait, 15 generations?
Yes.
That means this place has been around for a while.
Yes. This brewery was founded in 1647.
Whew.
It's a lot of ancestors.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So he took the brand in a completely different direction. And as we'll discuss and as we'll taste, I'm sure, he was very inspired by the world of wine, the culture of wine, and basically remade his brewery in many ways in the image of what a winery can be in Europe, old world winery. So that's our jumping off point for exploring this brand.
Yeah, and that's a a familiar tale at this point of, somebody takes over the brewery, they are inspired by wine, and then they go and do exciting different things. So, let's dive in.
Yeah, so I got the bottle of the Kamoshibito Kuheiji. We're going to be tasting, obviously, one of their sakes today. And I was checking out the bottle before the show, and there was a QR code on the back of the label that said, if you want to learn more about our rice fields and our philosophy, follow this QR code. So I did.
All right.
And it took me to their website, which very clearly outlined 3 of their businesses, which all kind of tie into their philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part of their business that they outline on the website is named after their brand, Kamoshibito Kuheiji, and that is their sake brewery that's located outside of Nagoya, Aichi, Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been their home base for centuries. And that's where they produce their sake. So that's the first prong of their business. And they believe very deeply in the concept of domain, which we've talked about with the other brewers, right?
Right. I believe it was Domaine Senkin.
Yes. And in 2010, Kuno-san said, we use yamadanishiki rice in our sake. They only make Junmai Daiginjo.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, if we want the best yamadanishiki, we have to have rice fields in Hyogo. So they went to Hyogo, to a town called Kurodasho, and they purchased rice fields. I can only imagine how expensive this land was to grow yamadanishiki.
I can't imagine that rice fields in Hyogo are going on at a discount rate right now.
No.
Or in the recent past.
Yeah. So for our listeners, Hyogo Prefecture is ground zero for yamadanishiki, and yamadanishiki is known as the king of sake rice. If you want to make the most exclusive sake, this is the most exclusive raw material you can grow. And he wanted agency, he wanted control over the yamadanishiki, not just to buy it from somebody else.
Right. Because a lot of breweries will buy rice from farmers or from different estates in Hyogo.
Yeah, definitely thinking outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
All the breweries I've visited and know really well, they all have generation-long relationships with rice farmers. And it's like this symbiotic relationship where this family grows the rice, this family makes the sake, and they have contracts and long-term relationships with each other. So this is really thinking outside of the box, of saying, we're a Nagoya sake brewery, and we're going to go to Hyogo and buy our own land and grow our own yamadanishiki. So that started in 2010. And I also read on their website that there's plans to build a sake production facility there as well.
Oh, wow.
It's not completed yet, but they want to make a second brand, Kurodasho, which is the name of the area. So they're going to have Domaine Kurodasho for their own Hyogo-grown yamadanishiki.
That's interesting. From some breweries that I've visited in the past, I've heard the concept that sake making really does begin in the rice field. If you grow the rice in a manner that you want, that you're going to get things out of it when you're trying to make sake that otherwise wouldn't necessarily be there. You have so much more control over it when you are actually choosing how, what to feed the rice and when and how much water and blah, 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 and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, they definitely live and breathe that philosophy, I think, at this brewery.
It seems like they take it to another level.
Yeah. When we talked about Senkin, they said that all the rice to make the sake was within 5 minutes of the brewery. And that is that same concept of domain that Kuheiji is really taking to another level here, where they're growing their own rice and they're actually building a brewery right there on location. And I think that the sakes from that brand are going to start coming out maybe later this year or next year. So they're not available yet. And then, if that was not enough, John, the Kuheiji brand has expanded to France. So
they're making sake there?
They're making wine there.
What?
Wine.
So he's so excited about wine and so influenced by wine that he's actually going and learning how to make wine also?
Yes. So the owner of this centuries-old sake brewery so fell in love with wine that he started a brand, Domaine Kuheiji, in Burgundy, France.
That's awesome.
Burgundy is like, you can't get any more French winey than Burgundy, right? Isn't that like the ultimate French wine? The Junmai Daiginjo of
You're
wine?
asking the wrong
I
person.
don't know either. I'm guessing it's a highly regarded area in wine country, and they're in a town called Maurice Saint Denis. Denis? Denis? I apologize for my French pronunciation. So they are in the heart of Burgundy, which is hardcore wine country in France.
The fact that I've heard of it probably means it's pretty hardcore.
And they are selling some of their wines that they're making there at Domaine Kuheiji. And I looked at one type of, they have 4 or 5 kinds of wine there. And one bottle was selling for about $149. Oof. So it's not cheap wine, but I'm sure it's very, very delicious. So they've have 3 levels of this business going on that all tie very deeply into the sense of domain, the sense of place, and the sense of growing your own materials and having those express the sense of place for your sake or your wine. So very deep.
It's very terroir.
Yes.
Wow.
We have talked a little bit about the Kuheiji brand, and you and I both have a bottle of one of their, really, without a doubt, this is their flagship sake. So if you wouldn't mind, can you give us an intro to the stats on this sake?
Sure. So this is the Kamoshibito Kuheiji Junmai Daiginjo Eau du Désir. Hope I'm getting that right.
That's French, by the way, everyone.
That is.
And what does that mean? Eau du Désir.
Eau du Désir. Thank you. That's much better than my pronunciation was. Apparently, it's water of desire.
Ooh.
That is the best
What
name, for a sake, I think. I think it also works better in French because, most things sound a little bit better.
Yes. So using the French name on the Japanese sake label, that's another nod to his love of French wine.
Yeah, clearly. So the water of desire uses a yamadanishiki, as you pointed out. The yamadanishiki milled to 50%. The sake meter value is a nice even 0. So that's going to be interesting. It'll probably be right in the middle between sweet and dry. The alcohol percentage is 16%. So again, just kind of right in that normal area, normal range. And as you mentioned earlier, the prefecture is Aichi. One other note here is the rice year. Now, do you want to talk about that?
Well, there is a label on this sake. The neck label says Eau du Désir, Junmai Daiginjo, so water of desire. And then right underneath that, there's a gold label that says 2019 in big numbers. And I went and I looked at their website in a little more detail. And this vintage number that is on the front label is the rice harvest vintage.
Yeah, that's another nod to wine, I want to say, because that's
Yes.
definitely something that I've seen on the other end of things.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing about this vintage. I mean, it could not, if you look at the bottle, it could not be more prominently featured than this gold sticker right on the front. The one takeaway that I have from this brand after researching them and reading about them and watching videos is that vintages are okay.
Okay.
And that's not, in the world of wine, that is not an unusual statement to make. But in my experience, I don't know what you think, John, but vintages are very uncommon in the world of sake.
Very.
Yeah. What I was taught when I was learning how to make sake is that you want to create a duplicate of the flavor from year to year to year. If you buy this brand of sake, this year and you buy it again next year, you want it to taste the same. And one of the big things that I think Kuno-san is changing is he is embracing the changes in rice from year to year, and he's embracing vintages and saying vintages are okay. Again, if you're a wine lover, this may not sound radical, but for the for the sake
For the rest
lovers,
of us, it's very weird.
for the sake lovers out there, it's not the usual way things are done. There is more French on the label, though.
There is more French on the label, yes.
I feel like I need a French dictionary to drink this sake. Okay, so underneath Eau du Désir, water of desire, it says riz cultivé sur nos terres, which I think means rice cultivated on our lands.
Possibly.
Possibly.
I'm the last person who should be asking that.
For all of our French-speaking listeners out there, je désolé. No, I'm so sorry for pronouncing that the way I did. I studied German in college, so when we get to German wines, I'm going to be great. But for now, I'm a little bit lost. So, should we get this open and get this in the glass?
Let's do it, Tim. I am ready to experience the Domaine Kuheiji. Well, that's the wine. I am ready to.
Wine. That's the Burgundy.
That's the wine. That's the Burgundy. I'm ready to taste this sake. I'm very excited about it.
Okay, I'm going to pour in the glass.
All right, Tim. So we've poured our Eau du Désir. And what's the first thing that you noticed?
Well, I would not guess that this is charcoal filtered because it has a little bit of a yellowish cast to it.
I agree.
Right?
Mm-hmm. One other thing I noticed is it has a tiny little bit of bubbles.
Yes, when I opened it, I got a little pop.
Yeah, I got that. I got that pop also.
Yeah.
I do believe this was aged in bottle. And that's definitely something that I've experienced in other sakes that are similarly treated. But yeah, so it's got a little bit of that, little lively still in there.
Yep. Yeah, so everything that we're going to say about this sake, I am filtering through a lens of the brewer is a wine fanatic, obviously. So that's kind of in the back of my mind as we go through this tasting. All right, let's give it a smell. I'm getting pineapple and pear and apple. Fruity.
I'm also getting a bit of that, but I'm also getting some... it's also reminding me of a bit of a white wine. On the nose. Like definitely has that like kind of like a... almost like a Chardonnay.
I couldn't agree more, John. Very much a wine-like aroma. For me, I'm getting pineapple, pear, apple, very gentle fruits. Not so much melon or banana, but more like pineapple and maybe guava. All right, let's give it a taste. It's a little bit sweeter than I expected.
Yes.
It's sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it's not overly sweet, but there is... And there's some acidity at play here as well. A nice amount of acidity at play here.
And a long finish. It's lingering on my palate.
The mouthfeel is really, really nice.
It's juicy.
Yeah.
It's juicy and fruity, and it's making my mouth water like a high-acid wine. You know, you're getting that bright acidity. Again, I'm getting pineapple flavors, higher acid, very much like, a bright, refreshing white wine.
Yeah. It has some of those white wine qualities that you mentioned, but it's taking just a little bit from that, and it's pairing it really nicely with some of the best qualities of a 50% mill Jumai Daiginjo that has been aged in bottle. Like it has that vibrance to it. It has that that fruit, that fruit interplay there is really nice. This is very unique. This is very special. I like this a lot.
Yeah. From my point of view, my opinion, what I think the sake component of this is, you picked right up on it, is really the texture, the smooth characteristic of it. Junmai Daiginjo sakes have this silkiness to them. And this really brings that to the party, don't you think?
Totally. And the two seem to be getting along famously.
Well, this is a Japanese wine-loving sake brewer, probably making the sake of his dreams, because this really is their flagship sake.
Yeah.
This is their main representative. And it sounds like he has big plans for the future, wanting to continue to grow his sake brand in Hyogo. Mm-hmm. I'm very much going to look forward to those Kuro Dasho brands that are going to come out from this maker, moving some production to Hyogo, and all those expressions of yamadanishiki that they're going to create. But I think if anyone needs a little summary of what this brand is all about, don't you think this sake is like the encapsulation of their philosophy?
I mean, it certainly tastes that way to me, and it lends itself to a second, third, fourth, fifth sip. It doesn't get in the way of itself. It doesn't like build up in your mouth or anything like that. It's just very pleasant, very welcome. That mouthfeel and the texture is so nice, and it serves as a wonderful platform to deliver that acidity and that fruit interplay. It's so nice.
Yeah, and it goes without saying that we need to drink this in a wine glass, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, we always say that you should have sake in your wine glasses because you've already got the wine glasses at home. But yeah, especially this one. It's doubly true here. I think that having this in a wine glass is most definitely the brewer's intent.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, John. If you had a friend who was really into wine and always poo-pooed sake or would never have sake with you, and they're a big wine lover, would you use this as kind of a lure to bring them over to the world of sake, or do you think that's kind of false advertising?
I would like to put this in front of them. The thing is, I worry that they would see it as an inferior white wine.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Right, but it's not trying to be a white wine. It's trying to be a sake that's influenced by white wine.
Right.
And then that was my first thought. But then I thought back to last week's show. We had a very similar conversation when we were sipping on the koshu. And the idea was, if we put this in front of somebody who liked whiskey, would they like this? And I like whiskey. In fact, I think I mentioned that's what, that's the part of my brain that really got engaged when sipping on that sake. And I think that if it goes the same way for this, then they really would enjoy that. They would pick up on those white wine pieces of it and be like, wait a second, like this is playing in my territory, and it's really great because this is really delicious stuff. It's really wonderful. And I think that it can do things with texture that maybe the white wine that's reminding us of can't. And that's really nice.
Yeah. I've given sake to a lot of wine lovers and whiskey lovers and people all over the country. And there are some people that just have a mental block against other, like they're like, I'm a Chardonnay lover and that's it. Like I can't go outside my box. There are people like that out in the world, but the majority of people I've given a sake like this to, I've found that you can use it as a bridge to kind of show them like, oh, look what sake can do. This has one foot in your wheelhouse. Give it a try. And most people are open to other flavors and not so closed off to those experiences. And I've found that it does work really well to open people up to a new experience with sake. So in that way, I think a sake like this is a real treasure because, you can bring this to any white wine lover. And I think that for the most part, they'll go crazy for it.
Well, I'll have to find a white wine lover and test this theory because this is
Calling all white wine lovers.
the problem is that they're going to have to get their own because I really like this and I'm not going to keep it around the house much longer. I don't think, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's very delicious and I'm going to be sipping on it very rapidly in the next few days, I think.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Now, since we were talking about wine, before we go, I do have to ask you about food pairing in this sake because wine and food pairing is a whole world unto itself. And this is a unique sake. Do you have any thoughts on how you would want to serve this or what you might pair it with?
Not really. So I've been thinking about that a bit because I know that this question often comes up. It's such an elegant sake, and I know it has those white wine notes to it, but I don't want to mess this up. I want to have this exactly the way I'm having it right now. So this is something I would have alone. It is a Junmai Daiginjo, and that is something that sometimes you're going to do a little bit by itself, treat it a little bit special. That's the way I see this. I want to treat this with some deference, and I don't want to mess with it at all. But that's also a cop out.
We got to eat. We got to eat.
I got to eat. Having said that, I'm going to defer to you because I'm awful at this.
Well, I had one thought when I was drinking this. There are some fish dishes, like a poached whitefish or poached cod or poached halibut that have these wonderful light sauces on them, and it's a flaky white fish, a little bit of acidity in the sauce, a squeeze of lemon on it, and that type of flavor is very neutral and begging for other flavors to be layered upon it, like wonderful light butter sauce, and like I said, a squeeze of acidity in there, and I think that type of flavor would go really well with this. It's when I started sipping on this, I was like going through the Rolodex in my mind of dishes I've had, and this halibut or whitefish, gently poached, just popped into my head, and that sounds so good. And I've recently been getting into salads more, trying to eat a little bit more healthy. So hey, how about that? Yeah. So I've been thinking more about salads too, and all the different things you can do with a nice fresh summer salad, baby spinach, and lemon vinaigrette. Again, I'm picking up on the acidity here. I'm wanting something with that squeeze of lemon on it to pick up on the really lovely wine-like acidity in this sake. I think that would work well.
Yeah.
What do you think of those?
I like that, especially like the idea of the white fish with a little bit of lemon. It's not going to push itself on the sake. The sake is going to be able to kind of lead the way, and that's going to go nicely. And then, like you mentioned, that little bit of citrus, that's going to go a long way to complement the acidity.
Yeah. One of the things I love the most about this sake is the finish. It is long, it's lingering, and it's great for sipping slowly while you're enjoying lunch, and just wonderful. So this is a great sake for wine lovers. I'm picturing myself on the French Riviera having this poached fish.
I think it's a great sake for sake lovers too, personally.
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been great.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to check back in with this brand. As I mentioned, I know they're finishing construction of that brewery in Hyogo. So it'll be fun to have a part 2 episode to the brand profile of Kamoshibito Kuheiji and see what they're up to with the rices that they're growing themselves in Hyogo.
I'm excited. This is the first item that they're importing for us here in the U.S. And I look forward to many more.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they bring over next. And I'm going to have my French dictionary ready to go for the next label.
Excellent. Hopefully at some point somebody will start putting German on the bottles and you'll have a leg up on everybody.
Well, John, merci beaucoup for enjoying Eau du Désir with me today. Okay, I've embarrassed myself enough.
Arigato gozaimasu.
All right. In any language, John, thank you so
Yes.
much for sipping with me again today. This was a lot of fun. And I
Yeah.
also want to thank all of our listeners so much for tuning in. We really do hope that you're enjoying our show. Now, if you'd like to show your support for Sake Revolution, the best way to help us out would be to back us on Patreon. We are a listener-supported show with no advertisements, and we really do appreciate each and every one of you.
We do. And there are a lot of ways to support us. Listening to the show is supporting us. Going out and telling your friends is supporting us. Sending us good vibes is supporting us. As Tim mentioned, going to patreon.com/SakeRevolution also supports us in a really big way. And you can also go to your podcast platform of choice and leave a review. Let other people know what you think of Sake Revolution, and also make this show a little bit easier to find when people are kind of looking around for sake podcasts.
And as always, if you would like to learn more about any of the topics, any of the brands, or any of the sakes we tasted in today's episode, be sure to visit our website, sakerevolution.com. And there you can check out all the detailed show notes.
And if you have a sake question that you need answered, and we know you do, we want to hear from you. Please reach out to us. The email address is feedback@sakerevolution.com. So, until next time, please remember to keep drinking sake and kanpai.
Je ne parle pas français, Jean.